Mr. Dorsey, your platform allows foreign dictators to post propaganda, typically without restriction, yet you routinely restrict the President of the United States. And here's an example. In March, a spokesman for the Chinese Communist Party falsely accused the U.S. military of causing the coronavirus epidemic. He tweeted, quote, "CDC was caught on the spot. When did patient zero begin in the U.S.? How many people are infected? What are the names of the hospitals? It might be the U.S. Army who brought the epidemic to Wuhan," and on and on. After this tweet was up for some 2 months, Twitter added a fact-check label to this tweet after being up for 2 months. However, when President Trump tweeted about how mail-in ballots are vulnerable to fraud, a statement that I subscribe to and agree with, a statement that is in fact true, Twitter immediately imposed a fact-check label on that tweet. Mr. Dorsey, how does a claim by Chinese communists that the U.S. military is to blame for COVID remain up for 2 months without a fact check, and the president's tweet about security of mail-in ballots get labeled instantly?
Well, first and foremost, as you mentioned, we did label that tweet. As we think about enforcement, we consider severity of potential offline harm, and we act as quickly as we can. We have taken action against tweets from world leaders all around the world, including the president. And we did take action on that tweet because we saw it. We saw the confusion it might encourage, and we labeled it accordingly. And the goal with our labeling—
You're speaking of the president's tweet?
Yes.
Okay.
The goal of our labeling is to provide more context, to connect the dots so that people can have more information so they can make decisions for themselves. We've created these policies recently. We are enforcing them. There are certainly things that we can do much faster, but generally we believe that the policy was enforced in a timely manner and in the right regard.
And yet you seem to have no objection to a tweet by the Chinese Communist Party saying the U.S. Army brought the epidemic to Wuhan.
Well, we did, and we labeled that tweet, providing more information.
2 months to do so, is that correct?
I'm not sure of the exact time frame, but we can get back to you on that.
So you're going to get back to us as to how a tweet from the Chinese Communist Party falsely accusing the U.S. military of causing the coronavirus epidemic was left up for 2 months with no comment from Twitter, while the President of the United States making a statement about being careful about about ballot security with the mail was labeled immediately. I have a tweet here from Mr. Ajit Pai. Mr. Ajit Pai is the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, and he recounts some 4 tweets by the Iranian dictator Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, which Twitter did not place a public label on. All 4 of them glorify violence. The first tweet says this, and I quote each time: "The Zionist regime is a deadly, cancerous growth and a detriment to the region. It will undoubtedly be uprooted and destroyed." That's the first tweet. The second tweet: "The only remedy until the removal of the Zionist regime is firm armed resistance." Again, left up without comment by Twitter. The third: "The struggle to free Palestine is jihad in the way of God." I quote that in part for the sake of time. And number 4, we will support and assist any nation or any group anywhere who opposes and fights the Zionist regime. I would simply point out that these tweets are still up, Mr. Dorsey. And how is it that they are acceptable to be there? I'll ask unanimous consent to enter this tweet from Ajit Pai in the record at this point. That'll be done without objection. How, Mr. Dorsey, is that acceptable based on your policies at Twitter?
Well, we believe it's important for everyone to hear from global leaders. And we have policies around world leaders. We want to make sure that we are respecting their right to speak and to publish what they need. But if there is a violation of our terms of service, we want to label it. And
they're still up. Do they violate your terms of service, Mr. Dorsey?
we did not find those to violate our terms of service because we considered them saber rattling, which is part of the speech of world leaders in concert with other countries. Speech against our own people or a country's own citizens, we believe is different and can cause more immediate harm.